Welcome back to another episode of my workshop journey. The story so far, we've completed the clamp, the fence, we've cut all of the rails that I'm doing and started to cut the tenons. This afternoon it's going to be a case of cutting the second half of the tenons so that we take the bottom and top out with just the one pass. I've adjusted where the cutter is, and so the depth of the cut will be 19.5 millimeters. The height from the bench is 6 millimeters. On the test piece it was 5.9, but I'm not going to complain about the 0.1 millimeter. And all I'm going to do now is start cutting these tenons. And there's the first one. So it's a 6 millimeter tenon, 6 millimeter by 30 millimeter, 10 millimeters from both ends, 6 millimeter from one side. So that's a good start, and let's crack on. I've got another 22 to do. So that's all 24 tenons done. Almost identical. Any discrepancies we can work around, and next thing is to actually work out where I'm going to be putting them on the legs to match up with the mortices. Now at this point I'm just going to show you how I've actually gone about designing this part of my project. I've not been able to utilize any electronic type of drafting software. I'd like to be able to, but I just don't have the time to be able to get to grips with it. I've tried several types, but none of them work. So what I've done is resorted to my school days technical drawing, and I've just drawn full size the part that I'm working on. That's why I've been able to work out these sort of dimensions. So let me show you that now, and I'll talk you through it as we're looking at that drawing. So here we've got the sketch that I've made using my schoolboy type technical drawing skills that I haven't used for decades, but on just a plain A4 piece of paper, side and top view, and I've done this full size so that I could visualize what was happening. So you'll see on the left hand side the leg with the top two mortices showing. Now when I first drew this picture I was anticipating making the mortices 8 millimeters wide with a gap on the outside of 8 millimeters. You'll have noticed that that's now been reduced to 6 millimeters because of extending the length of the tenons. That's gone from 10 millimeters up to 20, so I needed that extra depth. I needed to keep it as close to the edge as possible. Now that means that eventually I'm going to have to mite those tenons so that when they do meet, then they won't interfere with each other. But you'll also notice that there's going to be a groove in between the top two mortices. That's going to take a panel on the top to form a box, and that's going to go in between the top and the middle rails. And so to accommodate that, there's also on the bottom of the top rail and the top of the bottom rail, there's also going to be a channel to take this panel. And at the bottom of the middle rail, you'll also notice a hidden detail. That's also a hidden channel, but it's running across, horizontal to the top, and that's going to take a base to the box, and this is going to obviously create a little headache when it comes to actually gluing up the whole project. But this is how I've gone about trying to work out where I'm putting things, how I'm going to be putting things together, and it also means I can check the drawing to make sure that my components, like these 4 panels, are in the right place and are at the right dimension. So that's my sketch. For what it's worth, it's better, I suppose, than just a small hand-drawn rough sketch. I have given this some thought. So let's get back to the project. These are the 4 legs, and quite some time ago I had marked on face side and face edge, and just on the face side I had, based on the drawing that I'd done, I had marked off where the top and middle rail is going to be, and then right down at the bottom there's a 3rd rail as well to act as a bit of a stretcher, and where I'm going to be putting a little shelf. So one at the top, one just below the top, one right down at the bottom, just here. I'd marked that on all 4 pieces, and so what I'm going to do now is, because I'm going to be working with face edge and face side at all times, I'm just going to be marking off on the face edge where these rails will be, and then I'm going to be working out exactly where the cuts need to be, because if you remember I miscut 1 or 2 of the tenons. So I'm going to be marking all of the tenons with a number and a letter, and that way I can put the letters on the legs for the mortices, and I'll know exactly which tenon goes into which mortice, hopefully. I've used this technique before and it's usually worked. So that's for that. I'm just going to tidy up by removing the cutter from the router. Then I've got somewhere that I can use by way of storage, because I'm going to be using the bench mortiser, which is on its own table. So I'll be working here and I'll be putting everything on the bench. So just dismantle the cutter, clean that up, and then I'll crack on with marking up these legs. Right, so there's the first piece, the first leg, and as I mentioned, the face side, I've got one rail, top rail there, second mid rail just there, and then down at the bottom end, third rail is going to go there. What I've done on this first leg is extend the lines round onto the face edge. On the other three pieces, I've marked the top of the top rail on all of the other three legs on the face edge, and those are nicely aligned just there. So what I can do now, because I'm going to be using the square against the face side, against the face edge, I need to be able to transfer these face side measurements onto the other three face edges. So it's a case of aligning that top face side against that top line there, making sure that all of those top lines are equal, and then it's just a case of using the reference line that I have on the original leg to transfer the work across. And this is where I'm very glad I have this drawing pencil, because it gives a lovely fine line. So that's transferred across there. The next one across down again against this reference line here, that moved slightly. There we go. There we go. So those are all three positions for the rails marked, and the eagle-eyed among you will notice that the top of the top rail is actually offset from the top of the leg that's cut. That's because what I want to make sure is that when I've cut all of the mortices, I can then just trim off this excess bit here, and all of the top of the legs will be at the same height, and the same principle will be for the bottom. Once that I've cut the top of the legs perfectly square and equal, I can then trim off all of the bottom of the legs so that they too are of the same length. The next thing I have to do is to decide which leg is going to form which corner, and I've shown you this already, but just as a piece of scrap paper, I'm just going to draw on it the rough position of each leg. And what I'll be doing on the top of the leg is just making a note of which leg is which. Then I can decide which is going to have the long rail and which is going to have the short rail. That will then allow me to decide which piece is going where, and I can mark exactly where each mortise will be going. So it doesn't really matter at this point which leg represents which number, so all I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, and because the face edge and face side will be always facing outwards, that will then allow me to position which way the wood will face, and then I'll be able to decide which piece is going where. So face edge, face side, what I'm going to do is place that like that. So that's the outside, that's the outside, and it will always be outside so it will be outside, 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 outside. So that will be like that. And so the same thing here. It will be outside, outside. So that will be like that. And then it will be outside, 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 outside. So that will be like that. So it's numbers 1 and 3 together on one side, 2 and 4 on the other, like that. So all I've got to then decide is which is going to be the long side, and what I will do on my little sketch is just for my own memory. I'm going, so if it's 1 and 3 together, which is there, I'm going to make 1 and 3, the distance between there, the short side, which means between 3 and 2, sorry, well, that 1 and 3, that will have to be 4 and 2. So in between 3 and 2, 3 and 2 will be long. I know some might be able to do all of this in their head, but for me, I struggle at times with being able to visualize 3D objects, and that's why I have to talk my way through all of this. Okay, so I have the 6 short rails, and because it will always be face side, face edge outward, and the short will be between 1 and 3. So let's just pick those 3 rails there. Those 3 will go for that pair of legs. Okay, so between the rails it will be now then, things haven't quite worked the way I thought they would. This is why I need to talk my way through this. I'm going to get back to you. My difficulty is trying to comprehend where the cuts will be. I was thinking that the face edge, face side will always be working outwards on the outside. That was my thought, but if I'm going to be always working and measuring from face edge and face side, that means all of the cuts are going to have to take place on that edge and that edge. So that means all of these edges are going to have to face each other, so these marks match up. But because of this rail here, again, I'm going to have some of the reference marks on that side, which is there, there and there. So that means the face edge, face side are going to have to be on the inside. Okay, that's fine. That doesn't matter once I've got my head around this, so long as I know where the cuts are going to go on each piece. So let me think this one through. This rail is going to come there between these 2 pieces here. So that means the face edge, face side is on the rails is going to be on the outside of the piece, and that means, just for my benefit, they will go like that, which means that will go like that, like that. Okay, I've probably gone all about this all incorrectly, but what I'm trying to do is visualize 3D elements, and as I've mentioned, I'm not very good at that, but that's where that will go. So if I just turn that up like that, that means so that's like that. which then means the long rails will go here, going this way. Okay, so my ham-fisted way of trying to work things out, these are the 3 side rails on side 1 and 3 in position, and so that's got the face side on all 3 rails facing outward. The face edge is in all cases facing upwards, so all of them are oriented the same way. What I'm going to do now is, now I know which piece is going where, I'm going to number each of the rails, and what I'm going to do is number or letter them on the tenon. That way I'll be able to mark on the leg which tenon is going into which mortice. Then I'll be able to tell at a glance which piece is which. And yeah, that should work. Let me make a start on deciding. So I'm just going to go for A, B, C, etc. So A, B, C, D, E, and F. A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. And then, so that's that one done. Do the other side, then I can come to the long rails. Bring in the other 2 legs. So those 2 will be facing each other. Those are facing each other, so which way are those going to go? That will be that way. That will be that way. So for the long rails, if those are going to be the short rails, the long rails will be there, facing each other like that. Now then, F and M. F is that one. So A is that one. So that's going to go like that, which means that will turn that way. That will go like that. So this is the problem I'm having. I just cannot see which way things are going. So 10 and 8 into that, so that will be like that. So F will go into there like that. So that will be like that. And so these are the short rail marks. So which is going with M, that's S. So that's that. That will go into that one. That will go into that one. So that will go like that. S will go there. So that's on top of that one. M will go into there. So that's going in there. I know this is sounding very painful. It is very painful. But I found in the past that unless I talk my way through all of this, I get myself very, very confused very quickly. Okay, so that means the long rails will go between here . So I think for these I will use double numbers and double letters so I don't get myself confused even more than I am. Okay, so again, move the short rails out. So the long rails will go in between here . So they will go like that. Oops. Okay, long rails. I said double numbers, double letters, didn't I? Okay. So let me think. I will start at Z and work backwards. So that's Z, Z, Y, Y, X, X, W, W, V, V, T, T, and so that's Z, Z, Y, Y, X, X. W, W, V, V, T, T. So the same thing with this one. M, M, S, S, R, R, P, P. M, M, N, N, O, O. Right. Hopefully that's the end of my brain taxing. So I now know which rail is going into which leg in which position. Then all I've got to do is mark out the specifics of where each tenon is going in relation to each mortice. The preparation is 90% of the work, and because I'm mentally struggling, that's what's taking the time. But I think we're getting there. I know this is a complex piece. Maybe it's a little more ambitious than I should have attempted, but this is why it's a workshop journey. So that's as far as I'm going to go for today. I don't want to tax my brain too much. otherwise I'm going to start making mistakes. So I've worked out which pieces are going where. What I will do next time is transfer the size of tenons into the position on here, and then I can start making those cuts. So thanks for watching. Hope this hasn't been too taxing for you, and see you next time.